The Cross'em Wrestling Entertainment Podcast, presented by Clovercrest Media, is what you AEW fans have been looking for. Noah Cross and Tyler Bard give their take on every week's episode of Dynamite. If you are a massive AEW fan, then it is time to join us every Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Stay Cross'em.
Clovercrest Media Group presents a CMG podcast, Keys to the City.
Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know.
Crossed up by Kobe, will flow to Shaq, and then Shaq goes like this, and the rest is history. Pay attention. Don't tell me what to do, devil woman. But speaking of those Lakers, hold on. But I didn't make my. I said Denver's gonna win.
Yeah, you did. You said that.
There's no other show like that. Clovercrest is doing great things right now.
Streaming everywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our main event.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Throwing Jabs. We got an awesome show for you today. Obviously, UFC 261 is tonight, but let's start off recapping last week's fights with Jake Paul knocking out Ben Askren in the first fight. But before we get to the boxing, I need to.
Is that what you call that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess. But I mean, the production value of whatever Triller, is that what it was called? Triller Fight Club? That was ridiculous. I mean, having Snoop Dogg and Pete Davidson on the mic, there's people actually describing the fight, and Snoop Dogg's are like, oh, I'm betting $2 million on Jake Paul. Give me my money. That's ridiculous. I understand it's Jake Paul and Ben Askren, but still give me, I don't want to hear Snoop Dogg complaining, oh, I put down all this money. If you want to be considered a real fight, if you want to be considered an actual fighter, make it real. Make it real. I don't care about Snoop Dogg. I don't care about Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson, the whole show was going, wow, look at how bad boxing is right now. Look at this. He's making fun of boxing. A commentator on the show is making fun of the sport. How is that good? How is that anything? All right, let's get to the fight now. Jared, what did you think of that knockout?
I don't think we can tell much from it. I think my favorite part was the interaction between the professional boxing analysts and the Snoop Dogg's and Pete Davidson. I would love to see a compilation. It would you've got Snoop going, oh, you want some of this purple Urkel? And then you got Letterman over there like, oh, that was a great left hand, actually, if you're watching the fight. Hilarious. But I think this is like scrub scraps on steroids. I couldn't stand all the music videos and the strip club atmosphere. There's a spot for this. I think the ratings proved there's a spot for this. But we've got to better differentiate the levels of boxing. There are levels to this, and people get hurt all the time in this game. And there's levels to it. All of that being said, fine, I'll analyze the fight. This is why there's never a sure bet in the fight game, because you can talk all you want about the career of Ben Askren and being a professional athlete his whole life, and he could have dragged him into deep water, and that didn't look like what he wanted to do. He came in ugly and overweight, and it didn't look like himself. You never know what that training camp looks like when you're looking at the numbers. He did some Andy Ruiz stuff in the offseason here, in the interim, that made it not even a fight. It wasn't even fun. You didn't show up to win. You got the memo that Jake Paul was supposed to knock you out because he's the greatest fighter on the planet, and you followed suit.
Well, I don't necessarily think it was necessarily Askren's fault for coming in overweight. He wrestled at the Olympics at 160, and he fought at 170.
Who are we blaming?
No, listen.
Coming in overweight?
Hold on.
McDonald's.
The weight limit.
McDonald's fault.
No.
Sue him.
They were fighting at 190. The man's been fighting at 170 his whole career. And then they add an extra 20 pounds?
Do you mind if let me explain?
Go ahead.
There's three things I think are important to point out right now. Number one, Jake Paul's not a boxer. Ben Askren, not a boxer. Give you one better. Conor McGregor, not a boxer. Stop pretending these guys are boxers. These guys are fighters. Okay? Boxers fight professional boxers, and they work their way up until people are like, hey, this guy's pretty good. You win fights, you work your way into contention. That's what real fighters do. If Jake Paul wants to be a real boy, then he's got to fight real fighters, actual boxers. You can go fight guys that are 1-4 and 2-10, but they have to be boxers who know how to box. Otherwise, this is a joke. Okay?
No, tell me what the motivation is, though. What's his motivation for that?
He wants to be a boxer. So then be a boxer. He thinks that by fighting guys that are fighters that he's buying credibility, and we're allowing it. That's ridiculous. Nate Robinson's not a boxer.
What were you saying, Jack?
So John Scully said to me, none of those guys can fight. It's one of the things he said that I'll never, ever forget. I was a young kid. I got bullied my whole life and then started fighting back, and all of a sudden I'm beating everybody up, right? And so I'm this great fighter. I'm going to go start my championship run now. Like I said, showed up at the gym like I don't want to hurt anybody, guys. But got beat up at every gym. At every gym, I was that kid walking in that somebody there needed a little confidence boost. And for the first 18 gyms, that's what it was. As you walk in, you work out a little bit. Can I spar with somebody who wants the new guy? Right? And then I have this quarrel at my house and lace the kids up and start this little fight club where I'm competitive. All of a sudden, I'm in the top couple guys in this fight club where every gym I go to, I get beat up. And John Scully was the first one to really bring me in and work with me and not look at me as something to feed to the wolves because I wasn't going to be there long and didn't have the talent to be a champion. He was literally the first trainer that did that with me. So not being fed to the wolves, I then went back to the gym, and there was one point I said to John, why can't I get any ends here? Why do I do so well in the street and so well at my fight club? And then he said, none of those kids can really fight because nobody you ever fought can really fight. Those levels are so misunderstood by the general public. And the motivation for me with Chad Dawson and Jose Rivera and Matt Remillard in the gym and Lawrence Claybay and knowing I'm never going to achieve that level because anytime I want, I can get in the ring with one of those guys and they'll turn it up to about 0.5 and I won't get anywhere. So where do I get that other stuff? I don't want to be in any tournaments, right? Where do I get to reap those other benefits of boxing? In amateur boxing after 2-3 years of training? And I've actually turned into one of these wolves. Had a couple of those confidence boosts come in for myself, couple Chris Bakers. Where do you get that? What's the motivation for so put yourself firmly in the shoes of Jake Paul. Yeah, I want to be a boxer, but I don't want to be the greatest boxer of all time. I'm not there. I started too late. I'm probably never going to get there. In his heart of hearts, he knows that. But he's selling something else. And he's doing a pretty damn good job of it. And the motivation for him to fight anybody else and prove exactly where he stands on that ladder with those wolves, it's irrelevant. Put me in a fight I can win where I'm going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Why not? You can put me in a fight I'm going to win where I can make a lot of... Hey, it's entertaining as hell. Let's do it. Put me in a fight that's winnable. It's entertaining and people will watch it. That's what we're proving here. Put Joe in a fight that's winnable fight for him. People will watch it. It will be our highest rated show. Put Jace with somebody in his size that he might beat and put them in a ring together and let them bang. And it's our highest rated any show. You let those guys on Speaking It Real box each other. It's their highest rated show. Stir the pot sports. This is your shout out. When Scrub Scrap starts going, you guys can box each other. I promise you it's your highest rated show. If The View decided to match up those 4 girls and have 2 of them fight the other 2 of them, it's your best rated view of all time. And that's what we've tapped into here is the entertainment value of boxing. So let's not lose this magic in the fact that we surrounded it with flipping stripper poles and backup dancers and purple Urkel. Let's not get lost. Let's not lose the magic in the smoke. Sorry, guys. Welcome back, guys. My bad.
The worst part is, I mean, look, professional boxing, in my opinion, is hurting. And to see something like this and that, I mean, again, Jared, it's not like the fans don't want it, because they do. But for Jake Paul, this is about, like Zay said, getting followers. This isn't anything more for him. This is like, I'm going to go smash people. This would be awesome. I'm not going to fight anybody for real. We're going to preview Jorge Masvidal and Usman later on in this show. A guy who literally earned his way by fighting in Kimbo Slice's backyard to achieve superstardom and fame. Yeah. Nobody was handing it to Jorge Masvidal. That's a fair point. And so I think that's probably what irks me the most is to know that guys like Kimbo and Masvidal, that they were fighting in their backyard, like serious fighting though, with the idea that maybe, probably not, we'll just do this here. That's how much we love to fight.
You know,
this stuff is bullshit as far as I'm concerned. I'm offended by it. If you're going to do it, do it. Don't make a spectacle of it, because to me, it's an embarrassment to boxing.
So here's what I want to say is, first of all, that's a very fair point, Joe. If I had to make my stones with 12-ounce gloves and Nate Robinson, or barehanded with Kimbo Slice in his backyard, give me Nate Robinson all day. I'll fight him twice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That being said, what if I got to pick? What if I sat up in that highest chair for Trilla and sat at the gyms and watched these guys trained and looked at the numbers, and I did the matchup, and the next time Jake Paul fought, because he was under my label, fought the guy I wanted him to fight on the level I wanted him to fight. Beginner, amateur, senior citizen, celebrity, or professional, whatever level you're on, let's make some levels to this. And if that person gets to pick, and that's the idea, you have one trainer, one gym, that person gets to pick. The problem is, Nate Robinson? Sure, why not? Clarissa Shields, can we make it happen? I mean, payday. There's no motivation for it.
Let me tell you a quick story.
No commission.
In 1998, I was doing an appearance at a car dealership along with Harlem Globetrotter Orlando Antigua. And I said to this professional basketball player playing at the highest level of hoops, he's beyond the NBA. This guy's spinning balls on his head while he's spinning 2 balls on his fingers. I said, let's play one-on-one. He said, no. You'll never get a shot off. I said, let's play horse. He said, okay. And we did. And I hit some really cool shots behind vehicles, right? And it was going pretty well. HORS to HORS. That's where we were at. And it was Orlando Antigua shot. You know what he did?
He dunked.
Yeah, he dunked. And he handed me the ball, and he said game. So when you're playing with professionals, I mean, that's what would really happen. So again, if Jake Paul wants to get into a ring with Manny Pacquiao, I'll pay $1 million to watch that fight. And I would be happy to attend Jake's funeral in the morning.
But then Manny Pacquiao's in the same boat and doing the same thing that you're condemning Jake Paul for.
But I know who Manny Pacquiao is.
Yeah.
And I know what Manny will do to that guy.
And we don't know who Jake Paul is?
I mean, as far as boxing is concerned, if you wanna show me how good you are, right? Jared, if I would have beaten Orlando Antigua,
he doesn't want to know how good he is. Hey,
if I would have beaten Orlando Antigua, should I have gone and tried out for the Globetrotters?
No.
Should I have applied for the NBA draft that year? I'm not a real basketball player. Yeah. So again,
I'm okay fighting, but I don't want to know how good I am. Hey, when I stopped, one of the things that stopped me biting was stop my boxing, actual boxing, beyond the separated shoulder and not being very good at it. On the highest level was the Ali Frazier trilogy. Just one day watch those 3 fights right in a row. It's gonna take you a while, but if there's not a piece of you wanting it to stop, then I don't know what you're made of. We found out with those 2 guys exactly how good they were. Greater than all of the rest, and we found it out because of each other. And I'm 27 years old and wondering if I want to find that guy. If I want to climb that ladder, get knocked out by everybody above, beat up everybody below, find that guy, prove my greatness, and have that Gotti Ward trilogy and know exactly how good I am. No, because the punishment, the mileage, no, I'm comfortable. I like fighting, and I'll box as scrubs. I'm down to box, but as far as climbing that ladder, knowing exactly how good I am, Jake Paul doesn't want to know how good he is. We already know right about how good he is, and the biggest problem is the general public doesn't. Make levels, pick the fights for him. These are easy fixes.
Hold on.
Keep the magic.
You said this is like scraps on steroids, and I would say the opposite. I think scraps is this on steroids. I think this is making a mockery of it. If you and scraps were just screwing around and being stupid, then that's what this would be. But then you would just have celebrities, which would just, to me, make it worse. So I understand where you see the connection, that idea of putting people together. Yeah, I like the idea. Train 2 people of even skill and put them in a ring. Putting somebody like Jake Paul can box a little bit. And you're right, he doesn't want to know how good he is because he's mediocre and will get destroyed by any professional, especially any kind of boxer. I mean, right? Most of these previews, he started boxing when he was 3 years old. By 8, he was a champion. And Jake Paul started boxing a month ago, and now he's had 2 fights. You're not real. And of course you don't want to be real. He would never last with an actual fighter who's got some actual ring experience. So keep on, keep on slapping around, as Tony said, Hollywood Squares contestants.
Is it going to happen? Is he going to get to that level where it's a good fight?
Well, doesn't he train with Ryan Garcia? I think he knows his place, and he's going to keep taking these fights. But my real problem with this, first off, Ben Askren wasn't like, this was a joke to Ben Askren. The only person taking this seriously was Jake Paul. When Pete Davidson's going in to interview Ben Askren, he's sitting there talking about Bitcoin before the fight. He's not paying attention to the fight. Jake Paul has his whole crew, and they're like huddled around talking about the fight. He was focused, and Ben Askren was caring about cryptocurrency. But then, to call this professional boxing, they're pissing in a jar and calling it fucking
You
Sweet
just
tea.
need somebody to. But hey, so if you just had somebody to pick, here's the problem with bullying and victims is bullies, they always get to pick. If somebody's matching those two up together, all of a sudden the bully goes, well, I'm not sure I want to be in this room right now. Or do the damn thing. Problem with the victim, they don't get to pick the other person. If you pick the other person for them, and that's what's going on here. These guys are picking and choosing, and sooner or later we'll maybe get a good fight. If somebody else got to pick, you'd have good fights. This is wildly entertaining. People that don't know what's going on that everybody's heard of. Britney Spears versus Christina Aguilera.
When's that? I'm watching it.
I'm watching it too. That's what I'm saying is let's not lose the magic that's here because we don't have somebody picking. If I choose the matchups and you take out the music and the purple Urkel and the strippers and put that on a different show, I don't really think all of that belongs there. Maybe one of those. Do we need like 6 concerts in the middle of the anyways. Yeah, save it. Save those parts.
Why don't they just bring back Celebrity Deathmatch, but just for reals?
For real though.
For reals though.
How is this called professional boxing? How is this professional? That's my big. They're peeing in a jar and calling
you would think there would be 2 professionals if there was a professional boxing match.
They hit it again though, but hey, they struck gold again. Celebrity boxing struck gold. Bum fights went viral. Street beefs is doing well.
But do you think
this was the highest trending thing when it was on during that time on the weekend in prime time? The highest trending thing.
With millennials or with boxing fans? Because
but don't take away the magic.
I think there's 2 distinct groups we're talking about here. I don't think boxing fans were lining up to watch First of all, most fight fans don't even like Ben Askren.
But
let alone Jake Paul.
Value. You watch it for the entertainment as well as because you're a boxing fan and you appreciate the art. If you're going to get that entertainment, you're going to watch. You'll watch me fight, Joe. Every time I fight, you'll watch me fight. Not because I'm the best boxer in the world or to find out where I fall on that ladder. Not because I'm Jake Paul, but because you know me.
If Triple G and Canelo said they were going to fight 3 times this year, I'd book all 3 now. If Bud Crawford was going to fight Spence, book it. I watch it every weekend.
Hell yeah.
But see, boxing can't make good fights right now. And there's a huge opening for people to exploit it. And so that is exactly what's happening here. Again, what you're trying to do and what you're talking about and what this clown's doing are different things.
So
this is literally like just if boxing was just Apollo Creed's entrance, boop. That's all we're watching now. We're not watching a fight. We're just watching Apollo living in America. That's all this is for like 3 hours. And you're calling it boxing? It's not.
So take what we have right now with professional boxing, amateur boxing, and then beginners boxing, which is Scrub Scraps, the only approved program of the sort for beginners boxing. And can you picture that format that I have for Scrub Scraps that we've been using for that league and see it absorbing what Mike Tyson's doing and absorbing Trilla and these becoming branches of it? These are our most famous Scrub Scrap people and our oldest Scrub Scrap people. And the at the end of the day, it's a hashtag my wife came up with. I love it. I don't think it's completely true, but I love it. Boxing is for everyone. And that's the message we send. Scrub scraps. Boxing is for everyone. There's a spot for you in this sport. There's no reason you can go play softball with your friends and your skill level won't matter. Have you seen those D-League softball games? My God. Go to a D-League co-ed softball game. And it's not nearly. If a fist fight breaks out there, more people are watching than were. It's the most entertaining thing. We open it up, we make it for everybody, and everybody wants in on it. And then we just make levels and section it off so that these guys have a spot, so that you don't have Roy Jones Jr. versus Jake Paul and Floyd Mayweather versus, RuPaul.
The problem is actually boxers are buying into BS like Floyd. Again, Floyd is the one. Floyd Mayweather is the guy who turned this whole thing into a circus. So, of course, he's encouraging more clowns. Why wouldn't he? The clown prince of boxing.
Well, and John Scully talks about it all the time. Trainers come out like, oh, man, I've been in the ring with it. This guy could have been a professional fighter. If there's this Justin Bieber can really throw a punch. Did you see the articles? Get the hell out of here. No, he can't. I'll fight Justin Bieber. I'm ready. I've trained. Justin, it's not too late to say sorry. I'm ready, buddy. I'm ready. Jake Paul undercard.
See, Jared, you keep saying there's levels, and I agree, but we keep putting Jake Paul, Logan Paul in that pro level. That they're not pros. They shouldn't be pros. Shouldn't be professional boxing. That's my
solid amateur, maybe. Yeah.
Yes. All right. But now let's talk about real boxing and real, actual good boxing as Demetrius Andrade dominated Liam Williams in a unanimous decision victory. This guy needs a Charlo. He needs a Triple G. He needs a Canelo. Give Andrade someone to show the world how good he actually is. Jared,
Andrade by decision, is that's a good bet?
Yeah, I like it.
Andrade by decision. Yeah, I said that. But he not only won and was convincing about it and dominated, but he also looked touchable in spots. And I think that, more than the win or anything else he could have done, will probably get him one of those shots. He got touched once or twice, and I think those guys will see that, and his next fight should be a big one.
Credit to Liam Williams, because I thought guy showed a lot of heart, but I love this. After the fight, he said, I believe Demetrius is probably the best of the world champions other than Canelo. Wow. I mean, I thought that was coming
from a Liam.
Coming from a Liam. And you know how they do. But yeah, I like what you're saying there, Jared. My thought was, after watching this, Charlo and Triple G are like, I'm not fighting that guy. No way, no how. No reason to fight him. If they wanted to fight him, they certainly would have fought him by now. Both of them are pretty. I mean, they've all got open calendars at this point. It's if you guys want to do this next weekend, month from now, whatever, we can do this. Nobody's really doing anything. And again, that's what's so upsetting to me, is I have to watch Jake Paul beat Curly Hair McGee when we could be watching Andrade and Charlo, and then next month the winner that's fighting Triple G, and then maybe who knows? We could do some things, we could talk, but this was great boxing. I mean, I thought this was a really good fight. I think Andrade really showed the kind of fighter that he is. And again, man, credit to Liam Williams, because I thought that dude showed a ton of heart. It was a really enjoyable fight. But Demetrius clearly just dominated. And I'll tell you what, I think if you're Jermall Charlo, I think you should want to go get somebody like this. I think that could only elevate his stock.
If
be a good
Charlo,
fight,
I mean,
but risky.
I take Andrade. I take Andrade over Charlo.
You did you right. You gotta take some risks here. I think this could. I mean, there's definitely fights to be made, but you've got some great fighters right now in this division. Make the fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you need to find, if you are one of those guys like a Charlo, you need to find that good dance partner to make a good fight that brings other people in. Because we all know who Charlo is, but if you pick up Joe Schmo off the side of the road, he's not going to know. He's not going to know who Andrade is. They need these fights to happen so people learn their names.
That's a local guy that's aging too. Like it's got to be his next fight. His next fight has to be the big one.
So, I mean, again, if you're Charlo or Triple G, you lose to this guy. Canelo's gone. There's no, it's not, not only is it probably not definitely going to happen, it'll never happen. And so, again, because everybody's ducking everybody, it's really making it tough for a guy like Andrade to get a big fight because who wants to take that chance and ruin these super fights that are never getting made?
Yeah.
And again, Jake Paul's going to beat some bum next week, and we'll watch that instead because that's the biggest thing going on in the fight game. Yikes.
Yeah. We're going to have a bunch of kids growing up who think Jake Paul is a better boxer and they're not going to know who Demetrius Andrade is.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Before we move on, there's a fight a little later today. Callum Johnson is a 30-1 favorite. Now he obviously could just walk over Emil Markic, but I just want to have said he may get upset later today. Callum Johnson, 30-1 favorite.
Okay.
I want to have said that out loud.
All right.
Demetrius Andrade should fight Kindly Kean from YouTube. My son watches his videos. He plays video games. I bet you he would beat that guy down. But that'd be a fun fight. I hope they can make that one. Get Lil Wayne down there, doing some raps. Oscar De La Hoya smoking the hooch. It'd be a fun night. Let's do it. Get some SNL. Get some SNL hosts to come on in and talk about do that. That's what I love.
Have Ric Flair host another slap boxing.
Yeah, that's what I'm into.
All right, now let's talk about real fights. I mean, let's go from boxing middleweights to UFC middleweights as Robert Whittaker gets a unanimous decision over Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, Joe, does Robert Whittaker deserve the next title shot?
First and foremost, Jace, let me point out that what I told you last Saturday was that Whittaker was going to dominate start to finish, standing up and on the ground. And I think the 50-45s show you exactly what I was talking about. And you guys know how I feel about Marvin Vettori. And I said I thought maybe Marvin Vettori, by virtue of not having already lost to Adesanya, well, I guess having lost a better fight earlier in his career to Adesanya, that he should be the guy that goes next. After seeing what Robert Whittaker did, and to see what he's done both to Jared Cannonier and Darren Till before that, he's clearly the number one contender. And while I'm not ready to make this call just yet, there's a good chance that I might be picking him to beat Israel Adesanya when that matchup does occur.
Okay.
Is he better than Vettori?
Right now, I wouldn't want to mess with Robert Whittaker. It's something occurred to me. Kelvin Gastelum jogged to the ring, and Robert Whittaker walked into the ring like he was the Grim Reaper. His eyes were glossed over. He walked methodically slow. He looked like a man who was about to destroy another man so he could go get his belt back. And so anybody that's standing in front of Robert Whittaker right now, I would say watch your neck because he's going to take your head clean off it.
Might be a good idea to find somewhere else to be.
Jared?
Yeah, hey, Robert Whittaker, man, this is this is what Joe and I said was going to happen, and what Jace was it his heart or his
my brain
elbow,
said it was happening.
Your brain? It was
my heart did not.
So me, you, and his his ear all decided that was going to happen. It was a little more dominant than I thought it'd be. I mean, from the outside, it was what I thought would happen, but man, this is it wasn't even a good fight.
Jared, that was like what I said was going to happen, but like best case scenario. Like, I mean, I said he was going to dominate. Even I was surprised that it was as dominant. And you're right, it wasn't a fight. It was literally every time Gastelum landed one, bam, bam, bam. And it made for a really long 5 rounds for Gastelum. I mean, when you're getting hit 3 for every one you're throwing, let alone landing, ooh, bad.
Joe's analysis. I said he was going to dominate, and it was worse than that.
Yeah. I mean, it was right. It was like a shocking beatdown. And again, I like Gastelum, dude, and I felt bad. The best was when they announced 50-45. This is what Gastelum was doing. He literally nodded. No, all 3 judges had.
I just said 44, but you guys are close. You guys are close.
Everybody got that right. Good job, guys. I mean,
you heard that, guys? I got 45 points.
45. Yay! Came in with 0 today. That's great.
Working for a living.
But now, hey, breaking news. It looks as though Whittaker will not be cleared in time for when Israel Adesanya's next fight, or at least what Izzy wants to do. Dana White's now saying Marvin Vettori is going to be the first guy to get a crack here at Adesanya, just because the timelines match up. So
interesting.
Not official, but it looks like that's now what Dana's pushing. So
okay. I'm intrigued.
As soon as I get on board to Whittaker fighting Adesanya again, I'm finally convinced. They're like, no, not that.
But I mean, I don't think Whittaker could have beaten Adesanya. I do like the Vettori matchup more for the challenger. But Whittaker, that 1-2 head kick combo was so. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just so good, so crisp. I mean, he is on another level, and I'm excited to see him continue to fight back for the top. And that rematch is going to be great if we get to see it. Who knows now? But now let's get in to who you got this week. And we talk a lot about fighters, but we don't talk about the men or women behind the fighter. So who you got as the best trainer / coach in combat sports right now? Jared, we're going to start off with you this time.
So best, I guess, is relative. I mean, of course, you want to Freddie Roach your way out of this, maybe. And I have to say John Scully. I have to say that it's the trainer I just alluded to, that after all of the gyms in New England, didn't look at me as an opportunity for somebody else to sharpen their skills and build their confidence. And also happened to be the trainer of Matt Remillard. He did the bulk of the great work with Chad Dawson. He's currently Artur Beterbiev's trainer. Was a light heavyweight contender. It's hard for me to argue on either level. Like, even if I take my personal relationship out, I still think there's a great argument for, on paper, John Scully being one of the best trainers, if not the best trainer, in combat sports right now. He's trained some of the best fighters. Chad was on the pound-for-pound list. Arthur's on the pound-for-pound list. I'll take John Scully.
Okay.
Very, very good pick. I'm glad we didn't pick the same person. But excellent pick. I'm going to go with.
I'd have been okay if we did that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with Trevor Whitman, who has closed all of his other gyms and is exclusively working with Thug Rose Namajunas, Justin Gaethje, and Kamaru Usman. Previously, he's had Stipe, Donald Cerrone, Georges St. Pierre, Rashard Evans, Shane Carwin, Melvin Gillard, Roy Nelson, Todd Duffy, and Pat Barry. He's also won the Sean Tompkins Coach of the Year award in 2017 and 2019. That's my guy. Jace, I got a feeling that we might have picked the same guy just based off your reaction. That or you don't like my pick.
No, I also picked Trevor Whitman. I mean, he's great. I love how when he's not cornering, the ESPN uses him to analyze the corner, which I think is really, really cool. It's nice to get that little input. But yeah, this guy's a stud. I mean, he's great. To see how much really Usman, seeing the growth that he went from ATT and when he came in, and he's kind of got, since he's been with Whitman, he's kind of got a swagger about himself, which is new, which I really like, and I think can really help him break off from that, like I've said before, like that Bud Crawford type feel where people like he's just doing business and not really selling the fight. But I think he is selling the fight now. So I like that a lot. And then also I've watched a lot of the UFC embedded from this week, and those Whitman's, that crew you just mentioned, Joe, he's got them that they are together. They're a solid core, that they hang out with each other all the time. So I think that's really good. They're a solid team, and they've got that chemistry, which I think is really good.
I was watching Rose beat the crap out of Gaethje last night in training, which I thought was dope, man. Like, she's throwing him around. They're for real and not for nothing, but right, Kamaru Usman's like, hey, real quick, let me go show Francis Ngannou how to wrestle and beat Stipe. I mean, even the branches, the Whitman branches are affecting everybody. So, yeah, great. Sorry, I didn't mean to scoop your guy. We probably should have talked about that beforehand. The other cool thing is
an honorable mention for Henry Hooft here, Jace. I really thought you were going to say Henry Hooft.
I'm glad we all didn't pick Whitman. That would have been.
Yeah, Henry Hooft. Duke Rufus would have been here, but I mean, after Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley, that's kind of rough. But
Colorado, by the way, that's where it's at, man. You want to get some good cardio training in. You want to stay hydrated. If you don't do it in Denver, you die. It's a serious thing to stay hydrated at 15,000 feet above sea level. You better be hydrated. And I mean, no better way to get your cardio up. And you could see it with these people. You could see everybody that's training out there, boy. It's making a huge difference. So I'm not sure why Connor went to Portugal. Should have gone to Denver, Colorado.
Yes, sir.
Rocky Mountain Night, Colorado.
Also 5,000, not 15,000 feet above sea level. Denver is.
Another honorable mention, Jason Perillo, great striking coach. For Bisbing, Chris Cyborg. Yeah. So.
Didn't he do riding solo?
Jason, God damn you, Jerry.
You're so funny.
All right. Now, let's get in.
That's cool how he did the whole trainer thing and then was able to shoot music videos and stuff too.
Oh, geez. Okay. Let's get into tonight's fights. Starting off, I guess we'll work our way up to the main event. Start off with the Bullet, Valentina Shevchenko, but here's the tell the tape.
Jessica Andrade is 29 years old. She's 5'1" with a 62-inch reach and has a record of 21-8 with 8 knockouts and 7 submissions. From Parana, Brazil, Andrade grew up on a farm with aspirations of becoming a soccer player and was offered a spot on a soccer club in Sao Paulo, but when her parents forbade her from moving there, she began training in judo and jiu-jitsu. She excelled at both and earned the nickname Pile Driver when she illegally used the move in an amateur match. She turned pro in 2011 and won 7 of her first 8, all by stoppage, before dropping a decision to former Invicta champion Jennifer Maia. After winning her next 2 fights by submission, she was stopped with a brutal ground and pound by Liz Carmucci in her UFC debut. She bounced back with wins over Raquel Pennington, Larissa Pacheco, and Sarah Moras. And after losing the rematch to Pennington via rear naked choke, she moved up to strawweight, knocking out Jessica Penne in the second round. Andrade followed that victory with a guillotine of Joanne Calderwood and a decision over Invicta champion Angela Hill to put her in line to challenge for the title against the great Joanna Jędrzejczyk. In an exciting but one-sided fight, Andrade was thoroughly outstruck by the champ, losing a 50-44 unanimous decision. Solid wins over Tisha Torres and Karolina Kowalkiewicz earned her a second shot at the title, this time taking on new champion Rose Namajunas. After getting the worst of the exchanges in round one, Andrade was able to pick Rose up and slam her on her head, knocking her out and winning both the title and the performance of the night. Her reign was short-lived, however, as in her first defense, she was quickly overwhelmed in a 42-second blitz by China's Weili Zhang, who viciously beat Andrade with a series of punches and knees before the referee stopped the fight. The following year saw Andrade lose a rematch with Rose Namajunas before moving up to flyweight and stopping Caitlin Kukagian with a powerful hook to the body. One of the most physically imposing female fighters, Andrade has a highly aggressive brawling style and possesses immense strength, solid wrestling skills, and excellent cardio. Valentina "Bullet" Shevchenko is 33 years old. She's 5'5" with a 66.5-inch reach and a record of 20-3 with 6 knockouts and 7 submissions. Born in Kazakhstan, her mother, Elena, a Muay Thai world champion, got her into martial arts at the age of 5, and at the age of 12, she began her kickboxing career, amassing a record of 57-2, winning 8 gold medals in international competitions and becoming recognized as one of the greatest Muay Thai fighters of all time before switching to MMA. After winning her first 7 fights by stoppage, she lost to Liz Carmucci by a controversial doctor stoppage after sustaining a nasty cut from an illegal kick that should have resulted in a DQ win for her. She quickly racked up 5 more wins before dropping a decision to all-time great Amanda Nunes. She rebounded with a dominant win over Holly Holm and a performance of the night submission of Juliana Pena to set up a rematch with Nunes for the bantamweight title. And in an exciting and highly technical fight, Shevchenko dominated the action, but came up short again, losing a hard-fought split decision. After the loss, Valentina moved back down to flyweight, submitting Priscilla Cachoeira and then dominating former kickboxing rival Joanna Jędrzejczyk in impressive fashion to claim the vacant title. In her first defense, she knocked out Jessica I with a highlight reel head kick and then got her revenge on Liz Carmucci, winning a unanimous decision. Next up was Caitlin Kukagian, and after controlling the action with punches, grappling, and even a spinning wheel kick, Valentina caught Kukagian in a crucifix and landed a barrage of unanswered punches to force the stoppage. In November 2020, Shevchenko made her 4th defense, winning a convincing unanimous decision over top contender Jennifer Maia. An excellent counter-striker with a high fight IQ, Bullet has an exceptional ability to gauge distance, usually with a leg kick before and after a flurry. On defense, she typically counters with either a spinning back fist or wheel kick and possesses elite-level grappling with some excellent submissions. Jessica Andrade versus Valentina Shevchenko tonight.
That should be fun. I'm excited. I will say, Valentina Shevchenko, obviously one of the pound for pound easily top 5 right now. I think this will be the toughest fight she's had at flyweight, but she will still dominate Andrade.
Yeah, I think Valentina wins the fight. I mean, Jessica Andrade is tough, and is never going to be a pushover ever. So I think this is going to be a great fight. I think Valentina was a little flat last time out. We sort of talked about the fight with Jennifer Maia and maybe Valentina just trying to get some ring time in. Seemed to sort of prolong that fight. So I don't know if it was that or if she just struggled with Maia. So again, I think this will be interesting. Andrade is a beast. So it's going to be a great fight. I'm super excited about it. This whole card is absolutely off the hook.
Stacked.
I don't think Jared knows I'm up till like 3 o'clock in the morning making these videos, because every time I play one, he gets up and he leaves. And I'm like, I made this for you.
Yeah, take Shevchenko, though. I think we're all taking Shevchenko, right?
Yeah. Wait.
All right. I want to talk about something real quick. This is one of my favorite fighters in MMA. And I want to see if, by the resume, you guys can tell me who it is. Doesn't get nearly enough credit. Ronda Marcos, Carla Esparza, Beck Rollins. Those are the 3 fights on her amateur career. Then beat Paige Van Zandt, beat Rose Namajunas, beat Felice Herrig, beat Angela Magana, Angela Hill, lost to Rose Namajunas in the rematch, beat Meg Rollins, beat Michelle Watterson, lost to Jessica Andrade, lost to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, lost to Zhang Weili, lost to Mariana Rodriguez. Never been stopped.
Is that Tisha Torres?
Hey!
Yeah.
Jace for the win. Tisha
Nice job,
Torres.
Jace.
Never been stopped. And some of those unanimous decisions were arguable fights. She landed the more volume of shots. Tiny Tornado, perfect nickname. Love her. Fought all of these girls. She'll tell you who's going to win. Shevchenko. And Rose loses too. These are I parlayed the champs. I parlayed the champs, and Shevchenko is I think you're right. That's if I'm worried, man, Andrade comes in sometimes and just looks so much stronger than her opposition. You know, she's one of those Derek Lewis types of the female division, you know, the cannoneer types that has the power just to be a problem. She could be a problem.
Yeah, she struggles with counter strikers, like in Jędrzejczyk and Weili and Rose in her past. So again, I feel like it's a good fight for Valentina. You know, maybe you see one of them sweet head kicks. I'm always a big fan of the head kicks. Maybe in a little swinging back fist. I think she'll catch her and drop her at some point, and definitely get the little grounded pound action in, which we love. You know, we love our Valentina. You know,
we'll all be doing the Shevchenko.
Yeah. So this could be. I'm excited. This really is for me one of my. These are a lot of people that I like. I don't really know. I'm not really a big fan of Weili, but everybody else fighting, I'm not that I don't like her. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean it like that. I just don't know her enough. She is a very dominant fighter, and I'm super excited. She's the 5th best person in the 6 for me, skill level wise. So that's good.
All right. Well, speaking of that fight, let's preview it right now. Rose Namajunas, 28 years old. She's 5'5" with a 65-inch reach and a record of 9-4 with 1 knockout and 5 submissions. From Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Thug Rose started training in martial arts at the age of 5 and got her black belt at 9. She began training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and kickboxing under Duke Rufus while still in high school. After graduation, had a brief amateur career going 4-0 before turning pro at Invicta FC 4, scoring a 3rd-round submission over Emily Kagan, and followed that up with a wild flying armbar submission in her 2nd fight. After dropping a decision to Tisha Torres, Rose joined the UFC for Season 20 of The Ultimate Fighter. After 3 straight submissions over Alex Chambers, Joanne Calderwood, and Randa Marcos, Rose made it to the finals, but lost via rear naked choke in the 3rd round. In 2015, she defeated both Angela Hill and Paige Van Zandt by submission and followed those wins with a decision over Tisha Torres. After submitting Michelle Watterson, she took on strawweight champ Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and despite being a massive underdog, she knocked out Jędrzejczyk with a brutal 1-2 in round 1. After defeating Jędrzejczyk in the rematch, She was forced to take the rest of the year off due to a C6 vertebrae compression fracture sustained while training with Valentina Shevchenko. Upon her return, she dominated Jessica Andrade, but ultimately lost via knockout when she was slammed down in the second round. This past July, Rose got her revenge, defeating Andrade via split decision. A student of Trevor Whitman, Rose is a highly proficient striker with excellent footwork, high kicks, and after closing the distance will typically go for a submission. Weili Zhang, 31 years old, 5'4" with a 63-inch reach, and a record of 21-1 with 10 knockouts and 7 submissions. Born in Handong, China, she began training in MMA at the age of 12, learning Kung Fu as well as Chinese boxing and wrestling. While working as a fitness instructor, she began learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and decided to become a professional fighter. She made her pro debut in 2013, losing via decision to Meng Bo, and then won her next 12 by stoppage to claim her first world title, winning the KFL strawweight belt via second-round knockout over Simone Durante. After 4 defenses, she made her UFC debut in 2018 with a dominant win over Danielle Taylor and followed that with a first-round submission of Jessica Aguilar. She then beat Tisha Torres by decision and then blew out Jessica Andrade in 42 seconds, stunning her with a right cross and then bombarding her with knees and punches to get the stoppage to claim the women's strawweight title. After moving to Dubai and failing several times to obtain a visa, she was finally allowed to enter the United States to defend her title against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. In one of the greatest fights in UFC history, Zhang pulled off the split decision victory in a brutal, epic war that saw both women combine for 351 strikes and spend the night in the hospital. The fight was declared Fight of the Year, and both women were given 2 months medical suspensions to recover. A technically sound striker, Magnum possesses immense power, a high fight IQ, excellent wrestling, and the ability to walk opponents down and control the fight. Joe, who's going to win?
Boy, I just was talking about how much I love Trevor Whitman and I love Rose Namajunas. Weili's got such power that I don't know, and I feel like I gotta go. I gotta do it. I'm doing it. I'm gonna take Weili.
And still,
yeah, it hurts my heart to do it, but this is a tough fight for Rose. And I know she's gonna be in it, and she's gonna give her all, and I don't know, man. Just Weili is just. I feel like she's kind of getting there to like that Nunes level where you're like, oh, geez. The other thing that occurred to me too is Andrade reminds me a lot of Gastelum in that she's short and her arms are like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And it's hard to fight these bigger, longer fighters. You got to be in the pocket, and then of course you're going to get your face bashed in all night. So that's tough.
I love Rose, man. I'm in the same boat as you. It's one of my wife's favorite fighters. It's Namajunas. I don't see her winning this fight. I think this is a dangerous fight. I wish there was some kind of prop bet on whether we'd see her cry.
Yeah,
I know that's a shitty thing to say, but I think Rose Namajunas will cry tonight.
I'll take that bet, sir. Yeah. I love her to death, man. Right? She does. She's my favorite when she won the championship, and she was like, "This means nothing, man. Just be a good person." Like you could just tell the kind of person that she is. And again, to see her hanging out with Gaethje, you just kind of get a sense of who and what you're talking about and the kind of people that these guys are. So I'll never.
She was on the Ultimate Fighter too. Like, go watch that season if you don't know Rose yet, because you'll fall in love with her just like we did.
Oh, I love Thug Rose, but
She's
yeah,
cool.
this one's.
She's
I
cool
think.
as they come.
I think Weili's on her way to being like up there, elite level, and it's gonna be Nunes, Shevchenko, Weili, and then everybody else.
Her nickname is Nice Jeans. Zhang, Nice Jeans, Weili. You're welcome.
Hold on. Joe, let me get this right. The main reason you're picking Zhang over Rose is the power?
Yes.
Yes. Well, and if Jędrzejczyk was the stronger of the two when they were trading in the pocket, I mean, isn't Zhang going to be the stronger of this? This is a dangerous fight for Rose. She's tough as nails, but this is dangerous.
You realize Rose Namajunas spars with Pat Barry, right?
Yeah.
You realize Joe and I agree on this one, right?
Rose!
Here we go.
No, it's funny. It's funny when we were doing the trainers and he was like, yeah, and he started talking about Trevor Whitman and how good he is. And he kind of agreed with me. I was waiting for him at the end to just say anybody else at that point. I thought he's just going to say another name at this point. Listen, I love Thug Rose, Jace. That's a great pick. And there's no reason
my heart's picking Rose.
There's no reason to think that she can't win this fight, because she certainly can. And I mean, look, Rose is a smart girl. She knows what she's doing. So if she's got to try to end this early with an arm bar or something, I mean, don't think she won't go there. So it's possible. Like, again, look, last week, Gastelum Whittaker, 0. It's going to be 5-0, I told you. This will be a fight. This will be competitive. Rose will win round 1 or 2, I bet. I think you'll get that kind of fight where it'll be like, oh. But I think in the end, I just think that, I don't know, Weili hasn't lost a fight in over a decade. So, I don't know. I like sure things, kind of. You know what I mean?
Too big, too strong. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 9-4. Rose loses sometimes because,
I think Rose will take it slow, go methodically. I think Zhang really, she really succeeds when chaos erupts and she's able to land the punches. I think Rose goes methodical. She makes the fight go at her pace. And I think it's going to frustrate Zhang. And she's going to make some mistakes. But
There's too much dog in Rose for that. No way. What Namajunas fight did you watch that happened?
No, her fights with Jędrzejczyk.
She's going to get clipped a few times and she's going to end up in a fight.
Okay. I'm going Thug Rose. And I feel it. This is gonna be like
by decision,
dude. I think if you look,
it's gonna go decision.
Look at the Jędrzejczyk fight. I mean, there was every reason in the world for Weili to lose her composure. I mean, that was a dog fight, one of the most brutal fights I've ever seen in my life. If you can stay composed there, you're gonna be fine. I think it'll work itself out. I mean, Rose is a pretty namaste presence in the ring. I don't think that chaos is going to erupt necessarily.
All right. I'm still going Rose.
No, listen, I love that, and I'm glad that you're doing it. I wanted to do it, but I want to be right.
Yeah, and I'm going to be right and be happy about it.
No.
But yes, I will. Now, let's get into the main event as Tony gives us his tale of the tape.
All right, guys. Tonight on pay-per-view, we have an exciting rematch in the welterweight division as Kamaru Usman takes on the number 4 challenger, Jorge Masvidal. Let's break it down. Jorge Masvidal, 36 years old. He's 5'11" with a 74-inch reach and a record of 35-14 with 16 knockouts and 2 submissions. From Miami, Florida, Masvidal took to street fighting at an early age and made his high school wrestling team but couldn't stay on due to failing grades. After appearing in one of Kimbo Slice's backyard brawl videos, he began training in karate and MMA. He made his professional debut in 2003 with a first-round knockout. In his early career, he fought for various now-defunct organizations, going 16-3, losing to Rafael Assunção by decision and Rodrigo Dam by knockout, while knocking out Joe Lazone, Ryan Schultz, and Yves Edwards with a head kick. In 2009, he joined Bellator, knocking out Nick Aguilar in one round, but in his second fight, he was choked out with an inverted triangle by Toby Amada. From there, he won 6 of his next 9 with a rear naked choke of Eric Reynolds, a knockout of Satoru Kitaoka, and a decision over Justin Wilcox, before making his UFC debut in 2013 with a decision win over Tim Means. He then submitted Michael Chiesa with a Darce choke, and in 2014 defeated Pat Healy, Darren Cruikshank, and James Krause before losing by decision to Al Iaquinta. After knocking out Cesar Ferreira with a series of punches and elbows, he dropped his next 2 to Brunson Henderson and Lawrence Larkin by decision, but bounced back with the knockouts of Jake Ellenberger and Donald Cerrone. 2017 saw Gamebred go on another 2-fight skid, losing a very close fight with Damian Maia and a thorough one-sided beating by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. After a 16-month layoff to refocus his career, he took on Darren Till, and despite getting dropped within the first few seconds, he methodically started breaking Till down, timing his shots and knocking Till out with a left hook in round 2. After months of back-and-forth trash talk, Masvidal set the record for fastest knockout, landing a flying knee to the head of Ben Askren in 5 seconds in the fight that made him a star. In a unique bout for the BMF belt at UFC 244, Masvidal defeated Nate Diaz via third-round stoppage after Diaz suffered a nasty cut over his right eye. In July, he stepped in for a sick Gilbert Burns on 6 days' notice to challenge champion Kamaru Usman for the welterweight title, losing via unanimous decision. One of the slickest boxers in the sport, Gamebred lands at a 47% accuracy. He understands distance better than most fighters in the sport, boasting a 65% strike defense. He also is a solid defensive wrestler with a 77% takedown defense, and despite being wildly popular, he's often inconsistent and prone to off nights and occasional lackluster performances. Kamaru Usman, 33 years old. He's 6 feet tall with a 76-inch reach. He's 18-1 with 8 knockouts. Born in Nigeria, he moved to Arlington, Texas at 8 years old and started wrestling in high school, finishing with a 53-3 record. He wrestled Division II at the University of Nebraska, finishing with a record of 44-1, and then became a resident of the U.S. Olympic Training Center, but didn't make the 2012 team due to injuries. He turned pro in MMA in 2015 and went 5-1, then joined the Ultimate Fighter, winning in the finale against Haider Hassan, getting a 6-figure contract and following that up with a win over Leon Edwards. He followed that up with wins over Sean Strickland, Damian Maia, Rafael Dos Anjos, and a knockout of Sergio Moraes before winning the welterweight title with a one-sided domination of champ Tyron Woodley. In his first defense, he took on rival Colby Covington, and despite the fact that both men are known primarily for their wrestling, they engaged in a back-and-forth slugfest until Covington suffered a broken jaw and was finally stopped in what turned out to be the latest stoppage in UFC history. In July 2020, he was supposed to fight longtime friend and sparring partner Gilbert Burns. At that point, Usman left Sanford MMA and chose to train at Team Elevation in Colorado with Justin Gaethje under the tutelage of Trevor Whitman. 9 days before the fight, Burns pulled out after contracting COVID-19, and George Masvidal was brought in on 6 days' notice, losing via unanimous decision. In February 2021, Usman passed George St. Pierre for longest winning streak at welterweight, when after getting dropped early in round 1, he broke down Burns, dropping him with a jab and stopping him with a vicious grounded pound. Marty, as he is known by his friends, is an excellent striker with decent power, who uses a solid jab to set up power shots and uses outside leg kicks and stomach kicks to both wear his opponents out and control the distance. He likes to switch stances frequently to set up opponents from angles they weren't expecting, and his freestyle wrestling is one of the best in the business, boasting an impressive 100% takedown defense and a 47% takedown accuracy. Will Masvidal bring his A game and show that the loss in the first fight was just a fluke, or will Usman put on another clinic as he continues to dominate the welterweight division? Tune in tonight for UFC 261 for a fight card you won't want to miss.
Hell yeah, Tony. Thank you for that, as always. All right, Joe, your boy. Jorge
I
Masvidal.
love George Masvidal. Everybody knows that. I think the reason why I'm obviously not taking Georgie in the fight, it's not that he doesn't have the skills. It's not like he can't do it. You saw him in the first fight. I mean, a lot of talking, a lot of laughing. I just feel like there's that elite level where people like Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya and John Jones live. And then there's that next level where great fighters like, Jorge Masvidal are.
Just engaging.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of those guys, too inconsistent. Again, they're showmen. Gaethje's out there trying to be the most entertaining fighter in the world. Masvidal's out there. He's putting on a show. He knows he's a fan favorite.
Diaz brothers, McGregor.
There's guys, though, like Kamaru Usman, who are super hyper-focused. Khabib Nurmagomedov, obviously, another one of those guys. It wasn't about how I beat you. It's I'm going to dominate you. I'm going to win. I'm going to leave here with a W tonight. I'm going to get the job done. And those guys always win. And so I'd be insane to pick Usman. I'm not insane. I'll leave it to you, Jace. I'm sure that's where you're going, and I hope you do, because I was watching George Masvidal the other night, he was reacting to BMFs, if you will, and picking them out. Tony Soprano and Mike Tyson and, Jack Dempsey, just watching him. That's literally what I did. I watched a video of George Masvidal sitting on a chair watching BMFs on the screen and break it down for us. That's how much I love this guy. I wish I believed that he could beat Kamaru Usman. I know he can hang with him. Just doesn't have it in him. I don't see it, Jared.
I got to tell you, one of my favorite fighters, Jorge Masvidal. Gotta be one of my favorite fighters. And for me, bear with me here. This is the Ed Norton of MMA for me. You know who Ed Norton is?
Yeah.
Ed Norton. So he did a movie called Primal Fear where he played Erwin, and then a real stern guy named Roy. He had multiple personalities. And then he was in American History X. He was the bald guy with the swastika on his.
Yeah.
So I saw like 4 of this guy's movies that I loved before I realized it was the same guy. So I remember seeing him in the backyard with Kimbo Slice, and this guy's gonna get killed. And then he kind of didn't and fought oh my God. And then I saw him on a show that wasn't the UFC, and then in the UFC. And that third time when he started his career in the UFC, I went, hang on a minute, just like Ed Norton, are you going to tell me that's the same guy? That's the same guy? Shocked. Love this guy. Usman wins, dominant fashion. This is a repeat of the Rose fight. I'm picking against the person that I'm the story that I love. Rose and Masvidal are like, I love you guys. And you're fighting, as Joe said, that elite level, hyper-focused, upper echelon type fighter, and you're going to lose. Jace, tell us how Masvidal is going to pull off this victory. Please.
I'm actually kind of struggling because the more this fight week, I don't know why, but Usman's showing a lot more of his personality, and I like that. I like that in a fighter. So I'm liking Usman a lot more obviously, I love him as a fighter, but as a person too. But Jorge Masvidal, man, that dude, he's got power, and I think he's going to put Usman's lights out. Don't know how, but he will. I think he will. Usman, I feel, like I said, he's showing a little bit. I think he's a little too comfortable at the top right now. And welterweight is a tough division. And I think he's just, too comfortable. And I think Masvidal has that power to put him to sleep, and Usman's going to get caught.
Okay, that's an interesting scenario. I'll point out that, look, Georgie was begging for a rematch. He was like, I took the fight on 6 days. But what he didn't really mention was he was already in a full training camp. So he was training. And also, Usman was training for Burns until 6 days out. So he was
Totally
also
different fight.
right. I mean, so the excuse could be there for both. All things considered, you put these two guys together, you talk about consistency, you talk about all-around game. It's Usman in every single category. Unfortunately, the only thing I don't like about Usman is I think he's a jerk. I don't. He's too smug for me. I find him a little too smug, and it's starting to wear on my nerves a little bit. Watching the presser with George talking all that smack, dude. I mean, first of all, nobody's better than Gamebred at talking that smack, and so Usman sounds like a clown trying to hang. You know, you're never gonna one up Masvidal till you get in the ring, bro. I would save the pathetic, like, you're not that guy and you're not good at it.
Yeah. I remember telling somebody, you better fight me now. We're in this back and forth match, and I said something that made everybody laugh, and he said something back, and I went, whoa, you might want to test your odds fist fighting me, because a battle of wits is not something you're armed for, buddy. Probably kick your ass too, but I mean, you gotta try your luck. I think I'm probably a better trash talker than a fighter, so
yeah.
Pick your poison, kiddo.
I mean, all right. Hey, Usman is at the top of the game right now. I mean, if you watch the weigh-in, John Anik announced him as one of the possible one of the top pound for pound fighters in the UFC. But a question that's been surfacing a lot this week, I mean, George St. Pierre was asked this by ESPN. Is Kamaru Usman on the Mount Rushmore of welterweights, Joe?
He's putting himself in that position, but I still think he's got some time to get himself there. But no, I don't know that I'm going there just yet.
Would you put him there? Top 4 welterweights of all time.
This is where they have him for St. Pierre, Hughes, Woodley, Usman. So we're putting him ahead of Robbie Lawler, Shields, Condit, Fitch, Matt Serra. Somewhere right
now that
around.
You're saying those names, I feel like Usman would have beaten every single person you just said.
Yeah, well, here we go. St. Pierre, Hughes, Woodley, they've got ahead of him, and then Usman. Then we've got Robbie Lawler, Johnny Hendricks, Carlos Condit, Pat Miletich, Jake Shields, and Matt Serra. John Fitch, Rory McDonald,
I changed my mind, Chase.
Colby
He's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. Now that I'm say more names just to solidify this for me.
Well, no, because 14 is Stephen Thompson, 16 is BJ Penn.
Yeah, Usman
18
beats
Nick
both of them.
Diaz. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, he's really good. I wasn't even thinking about it in terms of that, but God. Yeah,
dude, no. Well, when he said it, I'm like, no. And then I look all-time welterweight, and he beats all of those. Those tops are fine. Right at 4. Unless you want to put Lawler ahead of him. Unless you want to try to make an argument for Robbie Lawler. You know?
I've seen plenty of Lawler
Even Woodley, though. Is Usman ahead of Woodley?
He beat Woodley. He beat the crap out of Woodley.
So Hughes and St. Pierre are our only arguments, and both of us would have said no off the top of our head.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it is. But I'm just super excited. Great fight card. Can't wait for it. But now, let's get into the flurry. And Jared, you got another scrub scrap spotlight for us. So introduce your guy.
Yes, sir. 3-fight veteran of scrub scraps. One of my favorite stories, Miles Wilkerson. Welcome to the show, Miles.
You're muted, brother.
You think after a year of this, I figured that out? Oh, my God. How are we doing?
Doing good, my man. Welcome aboard. So, you want to just talk to us a little bit about your experience at Scrubs?
Yeah. Well, I think it's good to, put a little backstory out, just so everyone knows. I'm diagnosed with Tourette syndrome when I was 7 years old. I grew up, in New England, and I had, growing up, every kid deals with bullying a different way, but for me, it's really difficult when you're the kid in class who's like cussing involuntarily and forced to be there. That'll do things to your self-esteem, right? And you kind of have to learn how to kind of make people back off without all the bullshit. Can I cuss on here? I cuss. I have Tourette's, so I cuss.
Feel comfortable.
I think medically speaking, you get like an all clear on it.
I get an accommodation. Good. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But so growing up, just that backstory, growing up, it was tough in its own way, just having to deal with that. People ridiculing you, a lot of time I would just hide that frustration. But then as I get older, through a friend I meet, Jared, and because I've been thinking like I really want to do boxing or Brazilian jiu-jitsu or something just to give me some kind of more confidence, And so what I did, I just showed up. I barely met you, Jared, I don't think, and I just kind of laced up. I was just full of all this bravado, and I'd been in fights before, but I'd never trained to box. And I was getting the tar beat out of me, but I'm, and after I think it was the end of the second round, Jared, you did this. This is one of my favorite moments of the, and Jared just kind of went, he said, "Miles, you have no technical skills, but you are a fighter. You're a fighter." And he could have called it right there because I was getting my ass handed to me. Then I start training, and then I pull one out, and it was a really excellent experience, and I really needed it, and it gave me a lot of grounding to keep going forward with my life, because dealing with that voice in the back of your head that you heard, some middle school cafeteria, some kid calling you a retard, and it's I just got my master's degree from the University of Wisconsin, so I needed that in my life, and I definitely thank Jared for that support and being in your corner. So.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, and I think in terms of what Scraps is and what it does for people is pretty amazing. And I don't know that I've heard a lot of different stories from guys who have participated in Scraps. This one, Miles, kind of blows my mind. First, I want to ask kind of a funny question.
Sure.
Before you learned swear words, what would you say?
I think it's important to kind of explain what Tourette syndrome is. It's really misunderstood. There are only a few 100,000 people in the United States who even have it. I have moderate to severe. It's not just this thing called coprolalia, which is literally the I think it's the Greek, the prefix is copra, and it's literally shit talking. That's that's the medical word for it. But that's only 10% of people with Tourette's. Unfortunately, I have it. But also there are vocal tics, there are motor tics. Try talking to a girl you like, and you're trying to not bark like a chihuahua. Try to not creep her out that way. So that does a lot of things to your self-esteem. But what Scraps did, I really loved it because everyone, there were some folks who were coming in, whatever. But the thing is, it's kind of like a gun range. Everybody's pretty polite because everybody's armed, and it really, nice. Am I wrong, Taryn? Am I wrong?
No, it's a different dynamic when you're at Scrubs.
It's a different armed, but yeah, got
it. yeah. And just in terms of Tourette's, I definitely encourage people to kind of do some research. I've been lucky. I've been able to try to mentor one or two young people because it's really difficult. It's really stigmatized, really misunderstood. Try being in a convenience store and you start kind of twitching and it's 10 o'clock at night and you're trying to get your bogeys and there's a cop right there. That's not fun. So it can do a lot to you. But connecting to I also have this thing called dyspraxia. Actually, because you suppress these things called premonitory urges. Like people don't realize I have it's kind of like a fish hook feeling, choking sensation a lot of the time. And until I do this, I don't feel comfortable. But if I do, then it's like, then people try to fight you a lot of time. I was on the bus up to New York one time. I'm just sitting minding my business. I feel like I'm fine. Homeboy's like, "You making fun of me?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't want this ain't scraps, man. I don't want to fight you right now. I don't want to fight you, And it's just like, but yeah, like scraps really, and nobody made fun of me at scraps. They're like, I just saw Miles just like take a ridiculous hit to the jaw. He somehow still standing. So anyway, yeah, I'm rambling, but yeah,
one of my favorite scraps moments. Like I said, you're one of my favorite stories. He came in. Who'd you fight in your first fight? Do you remember what the kid's name was?
I unfortunately don't remember. That's what none of my fights was there ever like any real animosity. It was all, I don't remember his name though. I really don't.
No idea what was going on, but tough fight for Miles. It wasn't technically sound. Like I said, I remember that moment in the corner where I was like, you have a lot of the things I can't teach you.
Yeah.
And none of the things I can. So just stick around. And then his second fight matched him up with Joel, my little brother Joe, who you know, and told Joe, hey, this is a skill level down. Let's try to keep it light. And Miles had been coming over training with me and landed first round this piston type jab to where Joel kind of reacted to it. I mean, afterward, I was a little tense with Joel. Thought he went a little heavy on him. But on the third fight, Miles has been coming over training. He fights this real tough kid, Ross, and comes away with a win. Now, your father was there.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind? My bad.
Excuse me. Your father came over to me after the fight and talked a little bit about your difficulties coming up, and talked a little bit about, the beginning of your life and some of the hopes, that as you're going along, you end up with these difficulties. Excuse me, that those weren't things. Some of the things that I gave him that day, he thought would never be possible, basically. He felt like you were a part of a team. He felt like you were out there really competing. Felt like you were able to win on a stage and have people cheer for you. And things you think of when you bring a little boy into the world on an athletic level that without scraps, there's really not a way for people like you and I to get to.
Yeah.
So that stands out to me as one of my all-time favorite moments. Like, hey, you created this platform and foundation for my son to be successful in a way that I've never really been able to see him be successful and have things happen to him that I've never really been able to see happen to him.
Yeah.
So for me, for everything that Scraps gave you, know that you gave me one of my favorite moments. That win for you was it for me. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. And you walked out of that with something you didn't have when you got there.
And I just want to be real quick, first, quick, not to get political, but a quick statement, and then an anecdote, it's a shame that kids can't go to the YMCA in their hometown and just, man, woman, whatever demographic, whatever, and do that and have that opportunity. There's a lot of people who are real tryhards out there. We know this. Who the thing is, they've never really had the metal tested. You can tell some the way they're swinging. They've never been in a fight before. And then they'll start things, and then when he's like, all right, man, cool, that's fine, let's go. Where you want to go? I won't touch on you, whatever. Then they're like, whoa, yeah, yes, but I was just out in the Midwest. They do that all the time. No offense to y'all, but but I just want to tell a real quick anecdote. My father, he grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. He knew an individual, the Clay family. And this was, his family friend, she had a young man in Golden who was rising up in the amateur. His name's Cassius. My father, the man my father is, I love telling this story because my father, he's cool. He was talking shit to to Cassius Clay at the time. He said, Cassius, you ain't going nowhere, man. My father's 10 years old. He doesn't know any better. He doesn't know the future. Guess what, future Muhammad Ali says? He's like, boom, hits him on the knee. Says, shut up, little ugly boy. Oh, I thought, my dad, he used to, tease just like, so I think some of that, I feel really blessed to have been in Scraps, all those people I met, I still talk to them. So yeah.
Miles, what was the biggest difference for the Miles before he stepped into the gym to the Miles who after his last fight with Scraps?
I would say, just to keep it brief, basically, instead of feeling like uncontrolled, like totally like uncontrolled, like rage, angst, like kind of the self-pitying, like the Stoics say, the worst, I think it was Marcus Aurelius who said, the worst form of cowardice is self-pity. Miles, after even the losses of Scraps, I needed those. Because that made me go down and hit my heavy bag in the basement. That made me go to the trainings because I'm like, I got to win. And after, it was kind of the sense of equanimity, like, if I apply myself to this, cut down on the bogeys, quit drinking. I'm celebrating a month of sobriety. I haven't been counting days but a few weeks ago, yeah. Jared's also been very supportive of that. I appreciate him for that too. Now I'm. It was definitely necessary for me to kind of progress and kind of let go of some of the baggage. I really needed that. And yeah, it was just, a friend from high school was like, hey man, I heard you wanted to do boxing. I've been doing this for years, so it was good.
Who was that?
Very good. Ray.
Oh, Ray.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Joe?
Yeah, thank you. Miles, here's what I love to ask everybody in Scrubs. We've done some interviews outside of this show even, and I guess my thing would be if there was a young person right now that was watching this who was struggling in again, whether it's bullying or drugs or it's whatever have you, and they feel like there's nowhere to go, what would you tell them to get them to go check out Scraps?
I would say, well, it's kind of like that trite saying, which is still one of my favorites: living well is the best revenge. Because the thing of it is, you can act in all kinds of spiteful ways to people, but the thing is, like, having the integrity to kind of to struggle and persevere. Things like Scraps can teach you not only practical, self-defense skills, but also give you, for people who are alienating, my Tourette syndrome with all its like comorbid things, it gives you that kind of camaraderie that I think anybody can benefit from, especially a young person. I think one of the big, I don't want to sound like a boomer, but one of the biggest travesties is there's not enough. You might see kids like playing ball or whatever, but they're mostly just playing video games, which, no, don't get me wrong, I'm a gamer too. But you really do need to have these kinds of things, whether you're like, for example, like, because I have a more invisible disability, one of my favorite opportunities, whenever he gets a chance, check out wheelchair boxing on YouTube. I'd love to see some of these dudes who are even professionals. I'd love to see them literally get in a wheelchair and fight some of these dudes who have lived in a wheelchair their whole life. Because believe me, they and a lot of people wouldn't even do it.
Oh, their arms are strong.
Yeah, because they're wheeling themselves around all the time.
Yeah.
Anybody. I think
I know
really
the kid
anybody
Ian that started that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really? You didn't tell me. Yeah. It's really important. I think stuff like that is really important. That camaraderie and that skills building, really, the skills to cope. Now, when I'm in a stressful situation, I'm like, all right, well, there's no reason to escalate this. This isn't an octagon. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, whatever, man. I don't like. As long as you don't put your hands on me, I don't really care. But scraps and different things like that really do teach you those skills.
How is scrap? How is being in the ring with someone affected your relationship? How do you come out on the other end with the relationship of the person you just fought, just tried to punch you in the face? What is that relationship like?
Well, the whole slogan of the group, you're not really friends if you haven't hit them in the face. You're not really. And to be honest, I don't have any. The three dudes, I would have loved to have continued. I want to get back to the gym, but COVID's made it weird. The thing is, like that level of. Unfortunately, some people don't have great sportsmanship. But I never left a match feeling like tight or whatever. I was like, that's I always think of Muhammad Ali. He lost a fight. Why be bitter? If you want to be bitter, get on Twitter. I kind of feel like I don't feel like I don't feel any negative feelings towards any because it's mutual combat. And it made me more like it gave me more of a sense of control, definitely. Because you have to remember, I'm always fighting look up premonitory urges. That's hard. But when you get those skills in the ring, it really does cultivate this sense of control, which is nice. And I never cussed someone out ever after a match. No one ever cussed me out. We always touched gloves and it was fine,
Well, again, I think like you said, you're in a gym with other guys, and it's hard to. That's not really the place to start running your mouth because probably the guy running his mouth is the guy everyone's going to jump. Yeah. So, right. It's so listen, I love the idea of, and you were saying sort of coping skills and I think everybody needs to belong somewhere and feel like they're in a place where no matter what's wrong with you, or what ails you or what your issues are, that there's a place that you can go where everyone accepts you. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's to me, step number one in that initial, I think if you're completely down and out, you're just looking for a hand from somebody, just someone to make you feel like you matter, like you're important, like somebody cares about you. And I think once you get past that and you get around more people, it becomes a little bit easier because I think you get to a point almost like a dog where a beaten dog is really scared of you at first, right? And it takes a little time for that dog to trust you and warm up to you. And you got to be super careful that you don't freak that dog out any more than you already have. And I don't mean to compare people to dogs, but I'm just saying that mindset of being beaten down, and you need to sort of learn it back. You need to learn it back before you can even accept it on a grander scale. And so, again, I think an organization like Scraps, again, working on a common mission, and then add on to it, I'm going to punch you in the face now, and we're cool, right? Yeah. That I think it takes a lot to get there, too, where Miles, when you punch me in the face, I just want to run and punch you back in the face now, right? And you have to learn that's not how any of this works.
Yeah, well, and just the act of punching someone in the face is one of the things that pulls all of those people into it. That's a great example, Joe, but the thing about those beaten dogs is that they don't know that other world exists. You have to start slow and teach it to them, but they don't even know it exists. So when it's a human being, you have to have somebody close enough when they're young to start slow and teach it to them, or you have to find a way to trick them and trap them in that situation. We do that with the fight. Some of those people just show up because they want to fight. And when they find that perfectly comfortable place, Miles might even fit this category, of just wanting to fight someone and then finding out that I'm perfectly accepted just the way I am here. There's a spot for me.
Yep.
And finding all those other things there almost as if by accident. When he showed up, barely knew me. I asked him what he weighed. He got matched up as best I thought I could, and we kept him moving. And all those other things fell into his lap.
Mm-hmm.
When we talked about Jake Paul, and I hate to bring him back up here, but when we talked about it in the beginning of the show, and I said, don't lose the magic in the smoke. This is the magic I'm talking about. There's something here. We got to weed through all that other crap to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something inherently magical here that drags out beaten dogs and makes them accept that path to the things that they never knew before. I'm one of those. We have my Jared coming on next week, Iceman John Scully. Be sure to tune in for that.
Hell yeah. Miles, who was you talked about how you are a fighting fan before even Scrub Scraps. So who is someone that you looked up to, a fighter that you tried to duplicate?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Well, the thing is, in the years since those Scrub Scraps, I've definitely kind of like totally revamped the way that I like spar with my heavy bag or do the speed bag. But at first, I'll just say this: my favorite fighter is Roy Jones Jr. because he's not only a boxer but also a musician. Because I love music as well, so I would have to say that. But in terms of like fighting style, boxing, I would have to say, I have very poor cardio, but I would say my endurance is moderately good. Like I'm pretty endurant. Like usually, like if someone hits me, I'm like, oh, whatever. Okay. So I try to take advantage of that. It's like I'm kind of like almost tall and lanky, but I'm really like more grounded. I've changed, but I don't move so much. I would almost say it's kind of like, yeah, I'd almost say like the person I was trying to emulate at first, of course, Muhammad Ali, and like I'm realizing I'm never gonna have that kind of cardio. That's never gonna happen. And then I realized like, well, if I can't beat Tyson, why not be Foreman? So I just kind of just like keep going, because a lot of people, you just start moving towards them and just kind of like they'll be like, what do I do? Because if you just count, let them come to you and count, it's boom boom. The jab.
I got a great one for you, Jace. You want a comparative for this guy? The jab he thumped Joel with was no accident. When he came and started training, it was the jab he focused in on. He wanted to know every part, and it's the first thing I teach. I want that real good long jab with the step that snaps out at the end. And man, he's got one of those rubber mallet type of jabs. It's Larry Holmes. If I'm looking for somebody to compare this kid to in the ring, it's Larry Holmes with that big thumping jab and whatever's behind it. Because that's what you think of with Larry Holmes. You don't think of those other punches. You just think of that big thudding. And that, man, I felt it during sparring and went, oh my God, man, that thing is coming fast and heavy. Larry Holmes.
NGL, I was kind of being a little bit of an asshole, a little bit. I should have just like, and then you got like I said in that Facebook chat, you definitely, I learned my lesson with that left hook. I did not see that at all. And I'm like, okay, there's Tweety Bird. I love cartoons. Okay.
Funny, you lean a little bit on that jab and come up around it.
And that's what I loved about Scrub Scraps, because it was just, and the thing is, any of those people, like, that's the thing. You'd have people who come in like, dude, like, as we say in New England, like, you're cocked right now. What are you doing in this room? Like, I was just like, okay, wait, hold up. And then there were people, who were kind of disrespectful. Almost within the first 5 minutes, they were just done. Not like socially, but just like if they were just like first round, they were just like, ugh. But the people who were more, I can't remember the dude's name. This is a big old dude. He probably got called like Chris Farley or whatever in high school, big dude or whatever. But dude knew he could take a punch pretty much anywhere. He would just come in like he hit himself, and he was a big dude. Dude hit really hard. But that dude was the dude who won the fight, not the people who were talking shit about him. Not them.
Mm-hmm. It takes your bullies and victims and kind of, put them in the same weight class, put them on the skin seal level, let them fight each other, and all of that stuff goes away. That's why I say there should be a program like this in every high school, every prison, because you'll get rid of that other dynamic that has people shoot each other and stab each other and jump each other 5-on-1. You want to prove your toughness, do it one at a time, and that dynamic levels all of that other stuff out. It goes away. It all but goes away because you don't have somebody that doesn't fit. There's a spot.
Yep.
And if you're the worst person on the chart, stick around for 3 weeks.
Yep. We'll
find somebody, and you'll catch a W. Yep. And like Miles says, those wins and those losses, as well as the losses. In my perfect world, everybody enters their third scrap at 1-1. And has, felt all of those feelings.
Yep. Yeah.
It helps you in your life.
All right. Before we close out the show, Miles, who do you got tonight?
Yeah. This has been something I've been thinking about because it's kind of like it's tough. It's like at the University of Wisconsin, I was learning Yoruba, which is like a Nigerian language, and learning about Nigerian culture and everything. To be honest, just some of my historical. I've got my master's degree in history, learned about African history. My money's on Usman because I feel that he has the. Well, don't get me wrong, Masvidal has the. They both have the attitude, but Masvidal, his taunts, I think, could get him in trouble with Usman this time because Usman is a much if you talk to a Nigerian family, there's actually this I think Usman's from the north, which is House of Land. They have this boxing art where they're your literal whole hand is wrapped in almost like a plaster thing with glass on it. And that's how, and you fight other dudes for your wife. He's coming from that. So
that guy's going to win every time. Yeah, that guy wins every time. Come on.
Yeah, don't take the bear. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on, Miles. Wonderful show, man. Wonderful.
I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Miles. Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. Thanks, as always, Jared and Joe, for joining me. And we'll catch you next week to recap this great UFC pay-per-view. We'll tune in next week for more Throwing Jabs. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our main